Well, howdy, partners. I'm Big Juicy, and I'm in the kitchen today cooking up a batch of Cowboy cookies. Why don't you hop up on the chuck wagon and join me? Well, let's get started. All right, let's get started. First, we're going to preheat the oven to 350 and adjust the oven rack to the middle position. Then we're going to take 2 baking sheets and line them with parchment paper. Now, this is not the type of parchment paper you would want to write the Declaration of Independence on. It just won't take the ink. Next, we're going to mix our dry ingredients. Culinary arts is a very precise art form and requires the utmost attention to be paid towards the measurement of ingredients. That's why I choose to use a scale. This recipe calls for 6 1/4 ounces of all-purpose flour. Just right. To the flour, we're going to add 3/4 teaspoons of baking powder. This is the kind with the Indian on it. Then we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. That's the kind in the yellow box. Then we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. That's the kind with the little girl on it and the umbrella dancing in the rain. Whisk this together until combined. We can put this aside. Now we'll mix the wet ingredients. This is 10 1/2 ounces of light brown sugar, 12 tablespoons of butter melted, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1 large egg and 1 large egg yolk. Now we're going to whisk this to combine. Now we're going to mix the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. Mix until there's no longer any white streaks. We need to get that scale out again. We're going to mix in 1 cup of pecans, 3 3/4 ounces of rolled oats, 3 ounces sweetened shredded coconut, just right. Finally, 4 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips, mix until combined. Now let's form some cookies. Using a 1/4 cup measuring scoop, portion out the cookies onto your parchment lined cookie sheet. Bake each tray in the oven individually for 15 to 17 minutes. Once the cookies have baked, remove them from the oven and let them cool in the pan for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, place on a baking rack to cool completely. Now, the history of the name Cowboy cookie is very peculiar. You see, the cookies used to be called cow pie cookies because of their appearance. But that's not too appetizing, so they changed the name to Cowboy cookie instead. Now, I'd like to say that story has a lot of credibility, but it just doesn't. You see, in the 1980s, Tom Landry and his Dallas Cowboys were finding it difficult to make it into the Super Bowl. They had made the playoffs several times, but they just didn't get into the big show once. So, Tom Landry hired a team of dietitians in order to come up with an energy supplement to rejuvenate his players during halftime. The plan didn't work at all. They played the Redskins that year in the NFC Championship and lost, and Tom Landry never made it to the playoffs again. But you can still see players like Ezekiel Elliott paying homage to the cookie eating practice at halftime. It's a neat tradition, and I invite you during this football season, invite the friends over, whip up a batch of Cowboy cookies, and watch the Cowboys play whomever they're playing. How about them boys? Yeehaw! Well, I'm Big Juicy, and this has been Big Juicy Morsel number 2, Cowboy cookies. If you like what you see, subscribe to the channel. Leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think. And until next time, keep it juicy.